Thank you to all my lovely supporters on Patreon. To hear all the music I make and covers I do, go to the link in the description to sign up for my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Hey, what's going on, guys? Christian Hanna Horror, and today, guys, we're talking about Tobe Hooper's Life Force. Now, I was going through my Blu-rays the other day, and I saw this, and I didn't even realize I had it. That's when you know you have a problem. So I was like, you know what? Tobe Hooper's Life Force, let's do this. I put this movie on expecting, a strictly outer space movie. That's not what it is. I'm going to attempt to explain this movie as simply as I can because, of course, I don't want to spoil it. Take this ride with me. So, Tobe Hooper's Life Force starts out with this group of astronauts, more or less, out, and they find this weird vessel-looking thing out in space. They go inside of it and find almost like these glass coffin cocoon type deals with humans in them. They bring these humans back, and they essentially start to take over people's bodies like vampires, except it's not blood that they want, it's like energy. They're outer space, human-looking, energy-sucking vampires. And and that is just like the tip of the iceberg of what happens in this movie. As I'm beginning to watch Life Force, I'm like, okay, this is definitely not the Texas Chainsaw Massacre by any stretch. And I'm enthralled by the way the movie looks because at first I'm like, oh, this seems like this low-budget thing. But then scenes will have these incredible-looking, wild special effects, and I'm like, maybe they spent money on this. Maybe they didn't. Then I realized I'm watching a canon film. Everything started to basically click after that. I knew I was just going to be in for a ride of pure insanity. So Life Force is 150% a horror movie. This is not just a space movie by any stretch. Sure, it has those elements, especially in the beginning and things, but this is a horror movie that takes place out in London, and it is wild. This movie has so much craziness going on, I really can't even explain it. So once these psychic, telepathic, mind-reading, energy-sucking vampire aliens start taking over people, havoc definitely ensues. And then the main one that we have is this beautiful woman. And she seems to be like the main one that's the antagonist. And she's the one that has the power. When they bring her to Earth and they have her in basically this base while she looks like she's asleep, one guy's watching her, and once she opens her eyes, she's so beautiful. And there's a lot of nudity in this. This poor woman is basically naked the majority of the film. But she's so gorgeous. Once the guys see her, they instantly are like taken by her. But then she is able to just get inside their minds, and she sucks their energy, and she takes it from them. And there's this really great scene in the beginning where she sucks the energy out of this one guy, and he turns straight into this petrified, wood-looking zombie human, and he's dead. And it's like, wow, this is really interesting. I gotta double down on the fact that this is a canon movie, so it is buck wild insanity. Tobe was probably experimenting on drugs at the time, and not to mention, I had the audacity to watch the director's cut. This steelbook comes with the Blu-ray of the theatrical cut and the Blu-ray of the director's cut, and I just went for the director's cut, and I didn't realize it was a canon film, so I probably saw everything plus the kitchen sink. Now, when it comes to Life Force, there is many elements that I really loved. First of all, once these vampire, psychic, psychedelic, mind-reading people have really wreaked havoc on everybody, the town and streets of London literally turn into a zombified area, because I guess they sucked out enough energy to make these people brain dead and just running rampant in the streets, and it looked like Return of the Living Dead's Part 1 or 2 in the streets. The makeup effects were amazing. They looked really great. So 80s, like I said, it instantly reminded me of Return of the Living Dead 2, when there's zombies everywhere in the streets, everywhere. My favorite scenes in the movie by far, because it was great. And, there's other elements of pretty cool gore. There's a scene where two of the guys that the woman alien, psychic, vampire, psychedelica, whatever, have taken over their bodies. Her soul is more or less trapped in them, and so they're trying to transport those two bodies out. and then she escapes by all the blood being drawn out of them. And there's this great scene on a helicopter where the blood is being sucked out of them and it morphs into her body, and then she screams and then falls and the blood goes everywhere and disappears. Amazing. Like I said, explaining Life Force is like explaining calculus for me. There are probably others that can do it better than me, but what I'm getting at is Life Force is you have to see this movie at least once. I can't say it's going to be Tobe's greatest film. I mean, I think Texas Chainsaw is the greatest horror movie, but Life Force is a canon picture. So for some people, that's going to be like, oh yeah, I got to see it. Because if you look at movies like Ninja 3, for instance, the movie starts out with a karate scene on a golf course. That's the opening of the movie. Life Force almost starts out with this really streamlined idea, and you think it's going to be this dark alien type movie, and then it gets crazy and wild. But it still has a pretty serious temperament. It mixes blends and feels from different types of movies. I kept feeling the essence of RoboCop in this with the type of gore and the orchestral music that it had, but then a lot of the cast was this male dominated cast, and it really reminded me of something like The Thing, where they're all trying to work together to figure out how to stop this. And so it had these blends of different movies that I really latched onto. It doesn't equate to the magnitude of The Thing, and it may not equate to the magnitude of RoboCop, but Life Force had a lot to offer and scenes that really stood out. I'm not going to say Life Force is an amazingly great film, but I really thought it was fun, awesome, and a must-see at least once in your life. Life Force is a crazy canon picture, and I mean that as a great compliment. So if you haven't checked out Life Force, you must check it out at least once. Some will love it, some will like it, some will hate it, but I dare say no one can be bored by it. It's a crazy, crazy film, and I've only scratched the surface when beginning to explain it. Now, when it comes to the Scream Factory Steelbook, it looked great. The Blu-ray looked amazing. The sound was great. It was a great theater movie. It felt really good watching this movie on my plasma TV with the lights out, with the soundbar blasted. What a great ride. Life Force is not going to be a movie I watch once a month, but surely once or twice a year, because it's got that zany craziness that you love from a canon picture. So I do recommend checking out Life Force, whether you stream it, whether you want to buy it, or if you haven't seen it in years and you remember enjoying it, I do say pick it up. It's a really crazy, crazy movie. Life Force is nuts.